All right. Welcome to another narration of mine. Settle in for a moment. This is where the voices I carry meet the version of the truth most people avoid, and where the things we uncover tend to stay with us long after the story ends. Only the brave souls and the fearless ones stay until the end. I never thought I'd be the type of guy to end up here. Not on some conspiracy subreddit, not ranting like a psycho, and definitely not talking about zombies like they're real. But shit has gone so far off the rails that I don't even care anymore. If you don't believe me, that's your problem. Just remember this post when you're barricading your windows and praying they don't smell you. I'm going to lay it all out. Every disturbing detail. And yeah, I know how it sounds. I would have laughed at myself 6 months ago. But not now. I found the link through a friend. Let's call him T. He was one of those weirdos that lived on the dark web like it was a second home, always sending me fucked up videos, messed up news clips, fringe shit. We'd been in this Telegram group where people shared survivalist stuff, mostly LARPing, to be honest, until T started talking about some new site. He sent me a message at 3:13 a.m. New drop. Real drills. Real blood. Not staged. No fucking actors. And then a link. It was a dark website called reclaimedprotocol.info. Don't bother trying it. I don't even think it exists in one place. The page was minimal. Black background. Red logo that looked like a decomposing skull with military dog tags hanging out of its mouth, and a list of videos going back months. The titles were vague as hell. Drill 227. Urban Containment. NYCC Block 8. Live body cam upload. Phase 3. Infection field test. Failure. No retreat order. At first, I thought it was some twisted indie horror project. High-effort ARG, maybe. But the second I clicked on the first video, I knew it was real. The first clip opened with helmet cam footage. Timestamp, July 12th, 2025, 3:21:44 Eastern Standard Time. Location, redacted. A group of what looked like SWAT, or military guys, were approaching an apartment complex. Sirens in the background. Gunfire. You could hear screaming from inside the building. They were yelling to someone inside to come out slowly. Then a woman burst out of the second-floor window, slamming into the fire escape. Her leg was completely shredded. Not bitten. Ripped. You could see bone. She was covered in blood and shrieking in full animal panic. The camera guy moved up the stairs. The footage cut out for a second, came back inside a hallway smeared with gore. There were bodies, but not dead, turning. One of them was just sitting there, motionless, mouth twitching, blood running from its eyes. Its jaw suddenly dropped open, way too wide, and it leapt at one of the soldiers like a starving pit bull, screaming, biting, tearing. They didn't even flinch. No orders. They lit it up with automatic rifles until its skull disintegrated against the hallway wall. That was when I realized this wasn't training to stop zombies. This was training on how to survive when containment fails. They weren't teaching people to fight. They were practicing who to leave behind. I watched every video that night. Hours of real footage. People getting ripped apart in cars, buses, houses, children turning, mothers screaming as they got swarmed by infected family members. One clip showed a guy with half his face bitten off, still trying to speak, coughing blood, trying to tell them he wasn't infected. They shot him anyway. The worst part? Some of the people being trained didn't even have weapons. They were civilians. They were told to follow orders, and then were abandoned mid-drill, left screaming while the infected were released from containment cages. Not simulation, not CGI. Real screams, real blood, real fucking death. I tried messaging T again. No reply. Next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. Congratulations, you've been granted Level 2 access. Next event uploads automatically. Observe silently. I didn't reply. A few hours later, my laptop received a file through my Tor email. I never gave them that address. File name, prep_AUG 2025_Midwest.zip. Inside were 14 more videos. But these weren't old. They were scheduled uploads, dates from the next few weeks, names of real cities. Cleveland, Minneapolis, Boise. Even one for my fucking town. That's when the panic set in. I went back to the site. There was a new tab. Drill sign up. Limited testers. It wanted a name, location, blood type. The sign-up list already had hundreds of names. One caught my eye. Tyler M. T's full name. Status? Active field unit. Phase 1 infected. I nearly puked. That meant he was either dead or one of them now. It gets worse. The last video I watched was drone footage. A whole suburban neighborhood, quiet, early morning. Then the screams started. Infected poured out of garages, basements, sewers. Not walkers, runners. Like 28 days later. Type shit. Ripping people apart in the streets, tearing them limb from limb, and howling like wild animals. You could hear the bones breaking from hundreds of feet up. Then a message popped over the screen. Acceptance rate 4%. Initiate culling. And the drone started dropping firebombs on civilians, not zombies. People. Look, I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I've already moved twice. My phone buzzes with encrypted messages I didn't subscribe to. Every time I get Wi-Fi, a new video downloads without permission. Some of them show areas before they're in the news, before outbreaks are reported, before the military claims it's just a chemical leak or civil unrest. But I know the truth now. There's a group, global, organized, ruthless, preparing people on the dark web for something massive. The drills aren't what if scenarios. They're trial runs for people who want to survive the real outbreak. And it's already happening, just slower than we thought. I made it out. Barely. I'm writing this from a 24-hour laundromat in a dead part of town where the lights flicker and the power surges every 10 minutes. There's an old guy snoring in the corner, passed out next to a basket full of piss-soaked clothes. No one's watching the TVs on the wall anymore. All they're playing is an endless loop of emergency broadcast tests that never finish. And yeah, I said I made it out, but I don't know how long I've got before I have to run again. Because the city's not safe. Not anymore. And the worst part? No one's even talking about it. Let me tell you what happened. After I saw that drone video, I didn't sleep. I kept my bag packed and my doors locked. 2 days later, I woke up to no signal. No Wi-Fi, no bars, even the radio was straight static. It was dead silent outside. No traffic, no dogs barking. Just nothing. Then I heard the gunshots. Single ones. Controlled. Close. Followed by screaming. Then growling. I peeked through the blinds and saw a group of people running barefoot down the street. One woman had a toddler in her arms, both of them covered in blood. The kid was screaming. The woman's leg was chewed down to the bone, and she wasn't even limping. Just running, like adrenaline, was the only thing keeping her alive. Behind them? Maybe 5 or 6 of them. The infected. Full-on traditional Walking Dead style. Rotten flesh, missing limbs, one of them dragging his guts behind him like it didn't matter. But they were fast. Not sprinting, just twitchy, erratic, like their joints were broken, and didn't care. Snapping teeth, blood dripping off their faces. One had a meat hook still stuck in his own shoulder. They caught up with a guy who tripped, tackled him like wild animals, tore him apart, limb by limb, not even clean. One was biting through his ribs. Another shoved its whole fist into his mouth until his jaw snapped sideways. And the worst part? The guy was still conscious. I watched him scream without a throat. I slammed the blinds shut and grabbed my bag. No more waiting. The plan was to get to my cousin's place on the other side of the city. He's ex-military, off-grid guy, solar panels, guns, ammo, the works. If anyone could survive, it'd be him. But the second I hit the road, I realized the drills had already been here. You could tell by the way certain buildings were already boarded up from the inside. I passed a gas station with bodies stacked behind the counter. Not just dead, executed. Clean headshots, like someone had put down the infected before they turned. I stopped at a grocery store for supplies. Walked in, lights still on. No customers, no workers, just silence and wet footprints on the tile. Not boot prints, bare feet. Bloody. Heading toward the back, where the meat freezer doors were swinging open and shut in slow motion. I didn't check. I ran. The closer I got to my cousin's block, the worse it got. Entire neighborhoods were dark. No lights, no sounds, just open doors and cars still running in the middle of the road. I passed a park where people had made a makeshift camp. Tents, fires, even a chain link fence around it, like they were trying to stay safe. But there was no one moving, no one breathing, just corpses, half-eaten, kids, old people. Someone had nailed a piece of cardboard to a tree. Do not let them whisper in your ear. You'll freeze. You'll listen. Then you'll turn. That part fucked me up. I didn't even know what it meant. I still don't. But every night since, I swear I can hear them muttering outside windows. Not moaning, whispering, words I can't make out, scratching the glass with broken fingernails, like they're begging to come inside. I finally made it to my cousin's house by sundown. Door was unlocked. No lights on. I called his name. No answer. Checked the living room. Furniture overturned. Shotgun shells on the floor. Kitchen was trashed. Blood smeared on the fridge. A trail leading down the basement stairs. I followed it. I shouldn't have. There he was, sitting in a metal chair, tied at the wrists, shirtless, bite mark on his chest, already black and oozing. He looked up at me, eyes clouded, mouth trembling. He said, "You have to finish the training." Then he bit off his own tongue, didn't scream, just kept staring at me while choking on blood. I ran out and slammed the basement door shut. And when I turned around, I saw his computer was still on. Guess what was on the screen? The drill site. Same one I'd seen before. But now, there was a new tab. Active participant. Region 06Z. Status: observing. It had my name on it. They were watching me. There was even a video feed from inside the house, showing me standing there, frozen. 1 second delay. I shut the whole thing down, ripped the wires, smashed the monitor. And then I heard something upstairs. The creak of footsteps. Slow, dripping, dragging. I jumped out the basement window and didn't stop running until my lungs gave out. It's not a virus that's coming. It's already here. And the drills, the site, all of it, it's not training. It's filtering. They're watching who panics, who freezes, who fights back. Some of us are being monitored to be recruited. Others, just test meat. The city's done. I don't care what the news says. If you're in a metro area, get out. These aren't random outbreaks. They're field tests. And they're moving across the country in waves. Each drill more violent. Each wave more infected. And once your region hits phase 4, like mine just did, there's no escape. I didn't go straight into the forest. That would have been suicide. Anyone who's actually tried surviving knows the trees don't save you. They just hide what's already there. I followed railroad tracks for hours. Old ones, rusted, overgrown. My legs were jelly. and my mouth tasted like copper from breathing too hard. Every few minutes, I stopped, listened, counted my breaths. No sirens, no engines, just flies. Too many flies. That's when I realized something was wrong. There were no birds. Not one. I reached a small maintenance yard by nightfall. Chain link fence, half collapsed, a shed, and an old signal tower. I climbed the tower, using a ladder that screamed with every step, and settled onto the platform with my back against cold metal. High enough to see, high enough to hear. That night, I learned how zombies hunt when they don't see you. They don't wander randomly. They wait. Sometime after midnight, I heard it. Slow footsteps in the gravel below. Not shuffling. Not frantic. Measured. Deliberate. I leaned forward just enough to peek through the rusted bars. There were dozens of them. They stood in a loose circle around the base of the tower, heads tilted up, mouths hanging open. Some missing jaws entirely. One was just a rib cage with arms, dragging itself like a spider. Another had a hard hat fused into its skull, dried blood, sealing it in place. None of them moved. They just stood there, listening. Every time I shifted my weight, they reacted. Heads snapped toward the sound. Teeth clicked. Fingers twitched. One of them made a wet, clicking noise in its throat, like it was trying to speak, but forgot how. I stayed frozen until my legs went numb. That's when the flare went off. Bright red light exploded from the tree line. Not mine. Someone else's. It arced through the air and landed maybe 100 yards away, hissing and spitting sparks. The zombies didn't run. They turned together and moved as one. What followed was the worst thing I've ever heard. Screaming. Not just panic screaming, real screaming. The kind that breaks halfway through because your lungs give out. I heard bones crack. I heard someone begging. I heard chewing. Wet, rhythmic chewing. I climbed down the opposite side of the tower and ran until my feet bled through my socks. At dawn, I found the camp, or what was left of it. 3 tents, one burned, one ripped apart, one collapsed under the weight of bodies. There were weapons everywhere, knives, a hatchet, even a rifle with no ammo left. Whoever these people were, they didn't go down easy. One guy was nailed to a tree with his own arrows. Chest cavity opened up. His face was frozen mid-scream. Another had tried to crawl into a cooler. Didn't make it. There were bite marks on his back where they'd dragged him out. That's when I noticed the symbol, carved into a tree with a knife. Same decomposing skull logo from the site. Dog tags dangling. Fresh. They'd been here. Not zombies. The people running the drills. They knew this camp was here. They let it happen. Maybe they caused it. I searched the bodies and found a radio. Still had battery. I turned it on and nearly dropped it when a voice came through immediately, like it had been waiting. "Anyone out there? This is Ranger Station 12. If you're alive, do not approach populated areas. Repeat, do not approach." The transmission cut out, replaced by static. Then a new voice, calm and flat. "Field observation complete. Subject response acceptable." I smashed the radio. By the third day, the hunger was worse than the fear. I scavenged what I could. Protein bars, dirty water filtered through cloth, half a can of beans. I ate cold with shaking hands. Every sound made me flinch. Every shadow looked wrong. That afternoon, I saw my first herd, at least 50 of them, moving through the trees like a slow tide. Some missing legs, being pushed along by others. Some still wearing backpacks. One had a baby carrier strapped to its chest. Empty. They moved toward smoke in the distance, toward people. That's when the helicopter flew over. Black, unmarked. Low enough I could see the open side door. A man leaned out with a camera, filming the herd. No attempt to help. No warning shots. Just recording. A banner unfurled from the side, flapping in the wind. Phase 3, complete. Migration confirmed. The helicopter peeled away. The zombies kept moving. I realized then that this wasn't about saving anyone, not even about stopping the dead. This was about studying the collapse. And the worst part? I think I'm still being tracked. Last night, I found a fresh trail marker tied to a branch near where I slept. Bright orange tape. Clean. New. Something they use for surveys. They know where I am. And I think they want to see what I'll do next. If I stop posting, it's because I finally ran out of places to hide, or because they decided I've learned enough. Either way, this isn't the end. It's just the next wave. This will be short, because I don't know how long I've got before this place goes dark. They found me. Not the biters. Them. The ones behind the cameras. The ones who started all this. The bastards running the drills. It started 2 days ago. I picked up a weak emergency broadcast from an old handheld I took off a corpse near the riverbank. I don't even know why I turned it on. It was probably stupid. Curiosity kills, especially out here. But the voice on the other end, it sounded normal. Like someone who hadn't seen what I've seen. Young woman, calm. Said there was a clean zone north of the ridge, past the burned-out overpass. Claimed it was secure, cleared of infected, food, medical attention, the usual bait. Said there were rangers there, ex-military, that they had power. She said the phrase, clean zone, like it actually meant something anymore. I didn't trust it. Not fully. But I hadn't eaten in over a day. My water was swamp piss filtered through my shirt. My knife was dull. My last bullet gone. So I went. The path was wrong the moment I crossed the ridge. All the trees were marked with red tags, not trail markers. Warnings. I saw clothes caught in branches. A child's shoe nailed to a post, bones in a ditch, not buried, dumped. I should have turned back, but I didn't. I reached the safe house at sundown. It looked like a fire watch building, tall, reinforced, metal shutters. A man was standing at the door in fatigues. Clean, too clean. He smiled when he saw me and said, "We've been waiting for you." Inside was the first warm air I'd felt in weeks. Food on the table, bottled water, clean sheets. It all looked untouched, sterile. There were 3 of them, 2 men and the woman from the radio. She was younger than I thought, maybe early 20s, blonde hair, tied back, but her eyes were glassy, like she was watching from far away. They kept asking me questions. How long I'd been out, how many infected I'd seen, what I knew about drill patterns. Every time I answered, one of them wrote something down in a little black notebook. Then they asked the question I knew was coming. Did you ever log into a reclaimed protocol.info? I didn't answer. They didn't need me to. They already knew. That's when things changed. They let me rest, gave me a room, no lock on the inside, 1 camera in the corner. I didn't sleep. I pretended to, waited until the hallway lights cut out. Quiet steps, no shoes, creeping down the corridor with my knife wrapped in cloth to keep it silent. Their operations room was on the 2nd floor. Guess what I found? Life feeds. Not recordings. Not archived drills. Life fucking feeds of cities, camps, roads. I watched a suburban school getting overrun. Kids turned, teachers eaten, cameras in every hallway. Another feed was of a hospital, the ones we thought were holding survivors? No, they were holding them down, letting them turn, hooked to IVs while their skin cracked and peeled. The last feed was worse. It was inside a bunker, lit by red emergency lights, people locked in cages, men, women, some kids, all in the same gray jumpsuits. One of them looked up at the camera and mouthed something. I swear to God, I swear to fucking God, he said my name. I ran, made it to the basement before the sirens started. Not emergency sirens, containment breach sirens. The entire building shook, like something massive hit it from below. That's when I heard them screaming upstairs. Not the undead, the staff. Then the moaning started, different from the usual slow gurgles. These were angry, fast, like wolves. They were in the building. Someone had let them in. I hid in the air duct, stayed there for hours while the entire place was torn apart. When I crawled out this morning, the only thing left intact was the security room. And inside was a tablet with a single video file on it. I didn't want to watch it, but I did. The video was grainy. Timestamp, 18 minutes before I arrived. It showed me walking through the trees, climbing the hill, approaching the door, being filmed. From above, from the trees. They knew exactly when I'd get there. They were waiting. Not to help. Not to save me. To test me. At the end of the clip, there was a line of text. Subject 09614B. Past. Isolation, infection exposure, persistence. Ready for final phase, controlled release. Initiate tracker reactivation. I don't know what that means. Controlled release. But I checked my neck again. The old scar? It's glowing faint red under my skin, like a tracker's heating up. I'm not alone out here. There's something hunting me, something trained, not turned. I think I'm the next phase, and I think they're going to use me to lead the dead. If you're reading this, don't go to any safe zones. Don't answer the radio. Don't trust clean water. Don't trust clean people. Because the dead aren't the real threat anymore. It's the ones running the drills. This is it. I've waited 2 days to post this. Thought maybe I'd hold out a little longer, but I can't. I have to get this out before I either starve to death in this drainage culvert or finally snap and eat a bullet I don't even have. There's no more running. Not from them. Not from what I've seen. Not from what I am now. But before I disappear completely, you need to understand one thing. This whole thing was never about preparing people for a zombie outbreak. It was about finding the ones who'd walk straight through it and not blink. It was about building them. And I passed. After the safe house collapsed, I wandered west. I don't even know how many miles. I drank swamp water, chewed leather to stop the hunger cramps, dodged herds, slept in busted sedans with bones still in the back seats. For a while, I thought I was alone again. But then the signs started showing up. Spray-painted trees, twisted barbed wire sculptures, arrows made from bones, and old belt straps. And always that same damn symbol, the skull with the dog tags in its teeth. They were herding me to the city. I tried to turn back. The next morning, I woke up with blood on my hands I didn't remember spilling. A brand new wound stitched into my wrist. Clean, professional. A tracker. They weren't following me. They were directing me. I reached the edge of the metro zone yesterday. Whatever was left of the city was long gone. Fire-scorched high-rises, melted cars, ash snow falling from the sky. But the infected? Still moving. Some of them looked like they'd been burning for days and didn't even care. No skin, no eyes. Just meat on instinct. Herds of them, hundreds deep, funneling into streets, climbing over each other, pulling themselves through alleyways like rats. They weren't hunting. They were following something. And I realized it was me. I found a building with power. No idea how. Inside was clean, sealed, empty. Until I got to the top floor. There was a room filled with monitors. Some broken, most working. Every feed was another location from the drill network. Old neighborhoods, highways, military checkpoints, and now, the city I just walked into. All of them had one thing in common. Me, walking, running, sleeping, bleeding, from weeks ago, days ago, last fucking night. All recorded. Every decision I made. Every time I froze. Every time I fought. Every time I left someone behind. They had notes, printed, clipped to the wall, like a science project. One line was circled in red. Subject 0961. 4B shows acceptable leadership qualities for swarm guidance. Another read, initiate swarm imprint protocol. Emotional severance complete. Final test begins upon subject's realization. And that's when I felt it. The humming in my wrist, my neck, my skull. I looked at one of the feeds, a camera facing the street below. Hundreds of infected, not charging, not clawing at walls, not growling, just waiting. All of them facing the building I was in, facing me. And then they moved. Not randomly, not wildly, together, in sync, like I was pulling their strings. That was the final test. And I passed. I think whatever they put in me, whatever they made me see, it broke something, or rewired it. Or maybe they knew all along. Maybe I was just the right mix of angry, lonely, and ready to live at any cost. Because I'm not scared anymore. I don't run. I don't hide. And I don't flinch when I see someone ripped in half, right in front of me. I don't help. I observe. I guide. I signal. They let me out for a reason. Maybe to see what I'd do. Maybe because they needed someone to spread the imprint to the next city. Or maybe because I'm the first real success. The first leader of the next stage. So, if you see a man walking alone down your street, don't approach, don't follow, don't help. Because behind him, there will be hundreds. And they won't stop. And he'll never look back. End log. Subject 09614B. Status: active drill network. Disengaged. Release protocol initiated. Next region: pending. Recruitment open. Yes, no.